And we're live. My name is King, and this is another episode of King Connections podcast. I'm honored to be here and interviewing on King Connections podcast, Hilary Fordwich. And I want to thank Hilary for her investment of time and energy, but she has one of the most exciting biographies I've read online from the work that she's in, and I'm just eager to really just get into that. So, welcome to King Connections, Hilary.
Well, thank you so much, King. It's lovely and frightfully good of you to say so.
I love that English accent and those expressions that you use, frightfully good. So now that actually brings up I usually start my conversation off with my initial question, but I have to ask this. So were you raised in England? Since I still hear the accent and the colloquialisms.
Well, yes, King. I used to say when I was a lot younger that I had spent half my life in England and half in America. I have now spent way more than half my life in America. I don't say half, I still say half. I do love this country. I've raised my children to be American. I'm an American citizen. I'd like to think that I hope I'm the best of both countries. I might be the worst of both countries, and then I'd be a horrible person. But no, I like to think I left England as a teenager. Actually, I don't know if you know this, but most people, their vocal cords are set at puberty. So wherever you grew up, those are your vocal cords, even if you move and you live in other places. And a good example would be Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's lived in America a lot longer than I have, but he still has that thick Austrian accent because he lived there when he was younger. So yes, my vocal cords were set when I was a young girl in England. And a friend of mine recently, who's known me since I emigrated, actually, we were in high school together. He said to me, you know, Hilary, you've been here so long. Are you now more American or more English? And I said, you know, I love English movies, English literature, English history. I love English manners and English etiquette and English antiques and English countryside. And he said, but we all do. So maybe I'm just an Anglophile.
No, I agree with you. My accent is definitely St. Louis, and I haven't grown out of that. And I left St. Louis when I was 18. I'm
There you
50
go.
now.
Exactly. Well, then, King, you proved the point. There you go. You proved exactly what I was just saying.
And forgive me for my voice. For some reason this morning, I'm actually having a little difficulty with my voice. So I'll
You sound
push
very
through it.
raspy, actually. It sounds like a great voice.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. So one of the first questions I love to really set the context of the podcast of my guests is, what is your purpose in life?
Well, I truly get a kick out of, and it makes my day to see people grow and to see people improve. I know this is not a belief, this is a fact that anybody who wants, and the only key is, do they want to improve? Do they want to grow?
Mm,
Anybody who wants to grow and anybody who wants to improve, I can help them, particularly in business and particularly with how to grow a business. And I can't tell you, King, how rewarding it is for me to bump into somebody in the business community as I did last year. Actually, it was just literally when we were coming out of COVID, and we were at something where I met this man, and he said, Hilary, 15 years ago, you came into the company and I was sitting in the back of the room, and I still have a little cheat sheet that I made for your presentation, and I keep it in my wallet. And he pulled out this crumpled piece of paper, and it was so rewarding, King. And I've had people again who were like sitting in the back of the room when I trained huge groups and now are heads of business development in companies and will say, I remember what you taught me 18 years ago. So when I've made a difference in someone's life by helping them improve, and somebody else said to me, you know, if I had heard you speak 20 years ago, I could have made a lot more money. So that's what I find the most rewarding, is making that difference where I can help people with their career and help them with their growth trajectory.
that's an excellent answer. That's an excellent answer. So my next question would be, do you see yourself as a conscious leader?
I consciously do all I can to help other people lead. I myself, I have a one-man band company. I help other people lead. So I consciously look at what does it take to make any leader a better person in terms of gaining and retaining clients and helping to retain their best talent in their company. So yes, those are the conscious parts of leadership that I work with and how I train.
Excellent. Now you just said something that brought up another question, and that is, you mentioned you're a one-man shop, and I understand you also are a mother as well. So how
Yes.
do you find time to really balance both and still be effective in both?
Well, I actually used to say when all my children were little, I used to say, people always say, oh, family comes first. And I used to say to my children, you know, clients come first, or are one of you going to pay the mortgage? So no, I did. And I actually can remember the time that my daughter was she was so sick, she was vomiting. And I remember tying her hair back in a scrunchie behind her head, putting a glass of water next to her and saying, I have to go and train 120 people, but mommy will be back in a few hours. When you finish vomiting, you need to get into bed, drink the water, and mommy will be home. I'm sorry, but I think in this day and age, too many people spend too much time hoping, I think maybe somebody else is going to provide for their family. But I was the only provider. I had to pay for my children, the mortgage, the groceries, the tuitions, absolutely everything. So I focused on my clients. My clients became my friends, and my children were my other priority after that. And I don't think I ever left the house once, not even once, if it wasn't either for business or to do something with my children. And I focused on the high level things, King. I was at their games. My youngest son played water polo. I was the chief water polo mom. So I was there at all of their key games. I couldn't be at every game, but I was there at the critical games. I had it on my calendar. I had it mapped out. But I think parents need to be a good example to their children and show them business comes first, and then everything else I do will be focused on you. I'm not going to sit around. One thing I can't do, if you said to me right now, King, it'll make or break your career if you can name me the top 10 television programs you watched in the last decade. Well, I didn't watch any. I can't tell you anything about television. I can't tell you anything about popular culture because I didn't do it. I was with my clients or with my kids.
Wow. That brings up another question, actually, and that is, was there a person that inspired you or that you looked at and said, this is the path that I'm going to choose to raise my children and proceed with my business life according to how this person lived?
Oh, King, I wish there had been anybody. I don't know anybody who 100% was responsible financially, logistically, emotionally for their children and did what I did. I wish I did, because I'd love to learn from somebody else, but there wasn't anybody. I will say this though. I did one time hear this great lady. Her name was actually Barbara Krumsack. I'll never forget. I heard her speak. And at the time, I was head of global business development for a global systems integration firm. And I had come back from Manila, where we had a global development center. And I'll never forget, I saw this presentation about how to be an effective businesswoman, great leader. But also she talked about being success with your family. And she talked about geographic proximity. And I must have seen her speak maybe 23 years ago. I've had my company for 20 years because I realized when I'm in Manila, I am not geographically close to where my kids' schools are. I can't go from one school to a client. So that's when I decided I have to form my own business. And on that note, you'll know when this was, because 20 years ago, or at least people in the Washington, D.C. area know this, because 20 years ago, I'll never forget, I went to have actually a lunch meeting with a very good business friend of mine. He was a lot older, but he took me to somewhere to lunch. And I was telling him, I'm going to found my own business. And this was his exact words. He said, Hilary, you have chosen the worst time since the Second World War to found a business. What with the economic malaise, the sniper and the snow. I don't know if you knew, but there was a sniper in the DC region. Everybody was staying at home. So nobody was going anywhere. No one was going to any business events. And we'd had snowstorms for a couple of weeks. And he thought I was crazy. But King, I had to do it because I didn't want to be in Manila and miss yet another school event.
Absolutely. And I was living in DC at the time, so I'm very familiar with the DC sniper and the snowstorm. So I know exactly the time frame you're speaking of.
More than 21 years ago now.
Wow. As I learned from you, from every answer to the questions I'm asking, it's just really so impressive of how you're able to balance both worlds and stand in your conviction of it as well. But then at the same time, the success that you've had in both. So I just definitely want to give you flowers from that, because I believe it's one thing to make the decision. It's another thing to actually implement it and be successful with it at the same time.
Well, people used to say to me, I've had many people say to me, Hilary, how can you be such a success? And I used to say, because there's no choice. I have no option. I will say another thing, something that really has helped me. And this is, I do a 6 a.m. boot camp. And I actually want to give a shout out to Chuck, my boot camp leader. He actually has been a great inspiration to me because he's there every single day. He's an ex-military man. And we have a boot camp on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And I have missed almost none. And I've been going there since September of 2008. And I'll tell you what matters, King, because it's 6 a.m., it means I can't have like an extra glass of wine at night. I can't eat a big meal late at night. Why? Because I won't be able to get up in the morning. Because I don't eat or drink as much late at night, I'm able to work later into the evening. And I'm telling you, I am up at 5:30 and I am there and I'm ready for boot camp, because this man he's older. He's ex-military. He's there. He's on time and he inspires us. And when I've done that from 6 to 7 a.m., I am whoo, ready to go. So I dive in the shower, curlers in my hair, make the kids breakfast, and I am ready for my first client meeting early in the morning. And I think that's another thing I would advise everybody listening to today. If you don't work out, start tomorrow. It's never too late. Eat less, drink less alcohol, drink more water, and do some kind of workout. Anything is better than nothing, and it will energize you. I only can do what I do because I have so much energy, and a lot of that comes from my workout routine.
Those are wise words that you shared there, and words that I definitely have grown accustomed to living that lifestyle in my life. So much to the point where I choose not to even connect with folks who don't think that way.
Yes, no, right. That's right. I mean, I just don't have friends that sit around ordering another pizza at 10 o'clock at night because they're not in my boot camp. No, I don't say to people, oh gosh, you're eating late at night and I won't be friends with you, but they're not my kind of people who are up and doing and moving. And that's what you just have to do. I think it was Margaret Thatcher who said, there's no free lunch. Nothing just falls out of the sky. Nobody else is going to provide for your family. And if you get it from the government, you're just going to have a dead end life. You need to get up yourself and do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, with that being said, as we talk about connecting with people, my next question would be, what are some of the key characteristics that you look for when you form a new connection with somebody, or you're contemplating forming a new connection with someone?
Well, I think my biggest thing is things need to be mutually beneficial and the sum needs to be greater than the parts. For example, I'll meet somebody and they're great without me. They've had a great career, a great life. They're doing very, very well. I've done very, very well. Thank you very much. But if together we can do something where the sum is greater than our individual parts, where we both benefit. So being mutually beneficial and the sum is greater than the parts. That to me is wonderful. That's what I really look for. I don't look to either take from other people, and I don't like to just think about what can I get from this. And I don't want to be really around people who just want to take from me. I like things to be mutually beneficial. And then it's exciting, it's fun. And I will say, thank you. You say I work very hard. I do work very hard, but you know what? It's actually a lot of fun. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy who I speak to. I enjoy making a difference. Seneca said, if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. This isn't drudgery to me. It's fun.
Excellent. Excellent. And I feel your passion, your energy in what you're saying, and it's 5 o'clock. So it's not like, it's 9 a.m. You still have that same level of energy at 5 o'clock.
It's from 5:30 in the morning until about 10:30 at night. I go, boom. I'm done.
And you sleep throughout the night once you actually get in bed, right?
Actually, I will tell you, but now we're going to get into very personal things. It's very important to drink a lot of water. People don't know the formula. The formula is whatever your body weight is in pounds.
Yes.
Half that in ounces, and that's the amount you're supposed to drink. But if you work out, you should have another glass. And if the weather's over 80 degrees, another glass. So for me, it's about something like 64 ounces, something like that. That's 2 of those giant Fiji bottles. But, and this is maybe an age thing, but I can't drink that late in the day or at night, or I'd be up all night. So I do chug a lot of water early in the day, and then I sleep through the night. So a lot of people that I meet that are older business people, successful business people, they'll say, oh, I have to get up in the night to use the bathroom. And I always say, just stop drinking late in the day. Drink it all early in the day and sip later on. That's all I do. And then you can sleep through the night.
Wow. We're getting some nuggets of wisdom there. So definitely thank you for sharing. Now, I noticed that within your set of services you provide, whether it's consulting or coaching, you talk about a term called human engineering skills. Yes. And I want you to kind of unpack what that means and define it a little bit more, please.
Yes. It's the science behind human engineering. And that is, people think it's an art if you get along with people, if people like you, if people trust you, if people respect you. Absolutely not. There is a science behind whether somebody likes you, trusts you, and respects you. Doesn't matter how old you are, what religion you are, what ethnic background, what race you are, what country you come from, what size you are. Certain science, there's a science behind having people like you, trust you, and respect you. So I always recommend a number of books on this. And then during my sessions, I pull points out of these different books and I put them together in a framework. So one of the must-read books is the most successful book that's ever been written on business on the New York Times bestseller list. I think the first book was written by Dale Carnegie in 1935, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It is really important. And anybody who listens to that, you can listen to it on tape now, listen to it books on tape on Audible, and you can read it. Pick it up now, listen to it or read it tonight or this week or before the end of the month. Use his 6 ways to make people like you, and they will. Like next restaurant you're in, use those tips on the waiter, or waitress, you'll get better service. Use it when you call an airline or you call somebody anonymously, like online, and this person picks up the phone and says, hi, I'm Bob. Like they're a human being. So you can get along with them too. And you know what? I'll never forget, there was a lady from United Airlines. I was booking something to England. I used all my tactics, all my techniques. We got along so well. And when it came to actually booking the trip, because it's a long story about what was happening with my account, something was messed up online. It wasn't taking my frequent flyer number. You know what? She upgraded me to premium economy just because she actually really liked me. And it's one of my best stories of this. It could have been an anonymous lady, but no, they're people. They're people just like you, King, and just like me. They're making a living. And you know what? They'll pick up the phone and they'll say, hi, this is Mohammed. And you don't really hear their name and you never use their name. If you don't hear their name, sorry, what was your name? And then they'll say, Bob. And you say, oh, Bob. Good afternoon, Bob. Bob, you must have spoken to a lot of people today. You must be so sick of speaking to people. Suddenly, Bob is shocked that somebody actually spoke to him as a human being. Guess what? He's got a family. He's got a life. He's just like you and me. Yes. That's what you must do. Treat everybody with dignity and respect. And there are 6 ways to make people like you. That comes directly out of Dale Carnegie, who I will give attribution. But Dale Carnegie really only gets into what makes people like you. There's also what makes people trust you. And there's a book written by Stephen Covey Jr., his son, and it's called The Speed of Trust. Anybody, doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like, age, religion, anything about you, everybody can trust you if you follow his points. So I extract some of his points. I also combine that with respect. When you're a professional, now I work with professionals, lawyers, accountants, architects, engineers, government contractors, IT professionals, a lot of highly technical people. It's your technical competency that matters. And according to the Carnegie Institute of Technology, 15% of all of our success is based on our technical competency. 85% is a human engineering. So my sessions are 85% focused on the speed of trust and how to win friends and influence people. So likability and trust. But the respect part is very important. How do you as a professional demonstrate that you're really competent? And then I have some tactics and techniques that I took from all my years at KPMG and with global consulting firms. And I've taken all of those points, lots of, basically hundreds of points, but I put them into a very succinct framework with 3 pillars that hold up why someone would want to work with you. And then I have 5 ways to achieve it. And that's my operating framework.
Excellent. As I was listening to you, I'm actually thinking about Dale Carnegie and telling myself I need to buy that book. I've heard about that book. I never purchased it.
You know what, King? You must. You are a very personable person. You're very affable. I think it's a delight being on this show with you, but I highly, highly recommend it.
I will, because Napoleon Hill had turned me off from the book because he talks negative about Dale Carnegie, and that's the only reason I hadn't read it. But I definitely will read it now that you've mentioned it.
And I will say it's not perfect, but it is the most successful book in business history. So there is something there. It's not all perfect. And there is a version, by the way, which I actually haven't read, which is updated for the modern economy and doing emails, etc. I haven't read that one yet, but that may be a good one to start with.
Excellent. And The Speed of Trust, that's one of my favorite books.
Oh, really? I haven't many people who've read that. It's an excellent, it's funny because his father, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I actually was annoyed by that book because he gave lots of attribution to many sources. He didn't give Dale Carnegie attribution, but I felt like a lot of it was just rehashing Dale Carnegie. That was my personal feeling. And yet that book, most people have heard of that book. I have not met to date anybody who knows The Speed of Trust. So I'm very impressed with you, King, that you know that book.
I not only read it, but it's certain books I look at as I call them my Bibles. In other words, I read them daily.
Business Bible.
Yes. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was one. I referenced that book. I've read it over 350 times. I read from it daily. Same thing with The Speed of Trust. I mean, to me, that book really encompasses how to establish trust, and more importantly, how to begin to look at your character. And both of those books deal with that deep introspective analysis of who you have to become in order to build these relationships with individuals.
Yes.
So thank you for those book referrals. I'm really getting a lot of value out of this podcast, and this interview specifically because you're asking questions before I get a chance to ask them. That's one of the questions I ask people is, what books would you recommend? But you are already kind of in that energy in that space. So thank you for that, and thank
You're
you for those
welcome.
two suggestions. Um,
See, I love helping people, everybody.
well, you definitely
Love
helping me.
to grow.
And I want to share back with you as people watch this and I get the feedback from individuals, how many people have been influenced by what you're saying. And that's really what the purpose of this podcast is really about. It's right, highlighting folks who are actually doing the great work, who are actually living a life that I believe others would aspire to be like. Not a selfish, narcissistic lifestyle that we see so much on TV and everything, but
No.
someone's actually doing the hard work and really serving and helping people and have that as their ideology and their philosophy as well.
Well, I actually have to say on that note, one time when my kids, three of my kids were young, and I was running around and doing things and making them all different breakfasts and getting them to their different schools and driving them to their different schools and going to my first client. And somebody once said to me, Hilary, with so many kids, how do you stay so slim? And I remember saying, do my 6 a.m. boot camp before they even up. But I said, there I was. I get up in the morning. I'm doing my emails, and I got my colas in my hand. I got the bacon in the pan, and I got the scrambled eggs, and I'm turning around. I'm serving this, and I'm doing this. And then I jump in the car and I get them to school. And I said, suddenly I'll be like an hour into my first meeting, and I get a wave of nausea. And I suddenly realized I was so busy focused on my clients and feeding my kids, I didn't eat. And so I've always said, you can tell people who don't think about themselves, that you don't have time to eat, because you're literally, and I always say to anybody with any weight problems, you know what you should do? Just think about other people. Instead of thinking, what am I going to eat yet? Instead of reaching for that piece of food, think, what can I do for somebody else? What can I do for my kids? What can I do for a client? What can I do in business? If I don't have a good business, what charity can I go and volunteer for? And I'm on a number of boards of different charities. And the board that I was most recently on, I said, we should literally find a lot of obese people and say, come in and just work for us and volunteer. We won't feed you and you'll lose weight. You'll help people and you'll lose weight. So I think it's focusing on other people. That's
excellent. Excellent. Another nugget of wisdom we have here. So I wish I had my counter going so I can actually count each time you drop one. Well, we'll keep going because I know that you have several more to lay on us. So my next question is, what do you think are the best ways for building new business relationships? And I know you just kind of outlined some of that with Dale Carnegie, but is there any other ways, strategies you think about as well?
Well, I think one of the things have changed rather drastically, King. I will say in the old world, it was in person and it was very, very different. But let's just talk about the new world. I think the same principle applies. Always look for, what can you do to help somebody else? Ask them about their business. Always ask questions. The most important thing to do when you want to do business with somebody, or you want to connect with someone and you want to, as you asked me just now, build a relationship, ask people, how can you help them? How can I help you grow your business? What would be beneficial for you for your podcast? How can I help your podcast grow? What can I do to help your business in some fashion or some way, King? You ask someone that question, how many people are going to say, that's a horrible question and I don't want to answer and I don't want to talk to you? No one's going to say that.
Right. Exactly. You're right.
If you mean it from the bottom of your heart, how can I help you grow? How can I help your business? Or maybe somebody like, I'm in the growth business, so it's very easy for me to ask people how can I help you grow? But if you just ask people, how can I help? What is it? What does your business need? How can I be helpful to you? People aren't going to say, I don't want help. I've never had anybody say that to me ever.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I agree. That's great advice. I've learned that from a gentleman by the name of George Frazier, who talks about networking.
Oh, right.
He says and when I read that, I applied it immediately, and I saw the difference in how people received me and the relationships I was able to build, and more importantly, I would say the speed that those relationships were able to get built as well.
The only thing I will say, I caution people always, because I think I told you that I have my framework and I have, what it takes to make people want to work with you. There's a big difference between want and need. Like, you need an accountant, you need a lawyer, you need a banker, but why would you want that one? So the key to everything is want. Then there are 3 pillars: likability, trust, and respect, but there are 5 C's. One of those C's is candor. You have to be candid, which means being truthful, which means building trust. Because if you ask that question, King, and anybody asks that question and they don't mean it, I think people can tell when you're not authentic. I think people, unless if you're a great actor or actress, go to Hollywood, because you make a lot more money than you will in sales. So stop doing what you're doing and go and act. But I think most people can't act. Most people are who they are. So if you don't want to help people and you don't want to be beneficial to other people, don't ask that question and don't think you're going to be helping other people in business, and you might as well just give up on that tactic. And that tactic works, but if it doesn't work for you because you don't care about other people, maybe you shouldn't be in the people business.
Absolutely. Well, as Stephen M.R. Covey talks about in The Speed of Trust, talk straight. That's one of the things he says, make sure you talk straight. And I had never heard that term prior to that. I mean, I understand what it means, but it's just a context of saying it that way in a business book and just being clear. Talk straight.
Yeah. Say what you mean and mean what you say, always, period.
Again, wise words live by. So, of all the things that you've accomplished in your life, what would you say has been the most rewarding to you?
Well, the most rewarding, actually, I suppose, are my children, because I think it wasn't Seneca, it was another Roman, and I forget which Roman. I really should find out which one, who said something like, when you're an old man, success is when your children come to you without their handout. In other words, not just wanting money, but they still come to you. And I will say I am so close to all my children. That is tremendously rewarding. But second, and followed up very, very secondly, is the amount of business people that I see. I mentioned somebody that I bumped into right as we were coming out of COVID, and the people that I haven't seen in so many years who tell me what a difference I made in their careers. I mean, I needed the money. Everybody needs money to pay the mortgage and tuitions. But I will tell you, King, it is so rewarding to have made a difference in so many people's life. And that's followed up with, I'm really close friends with a lot of my former clients. I did so much for them. I was so devoted to them. And I'm a golfer, as you probably can tell from the pictures behind me. And, they'd invite me to their member guests and to their golf tournaments and I would play with them. And so men and women, I met lots of them, businessmen I was doing business with. I'd meet their wives and their families. And now we're close family friends. And a lot of women, I've stayed close to them, people that are a lot older than me and they're in their retirement now. And that, to me, at the end of my days, if I have my lovely, lovely children around me and my clients and friends, who my friends and my clients, because that was my world, that is a life fulfilled. And I also feel good because I don't think they would be friends with me or friendly if I hadn't done a really, really, really good job for them.
That's true. That's true. And that's, again, another powerful statement as well. Now, as we shift from kind of the successes you've made, I also want to talk about some of the failures you've made. And I would say, what's some of the key mistakes you've made in your business, and what have you learned from them?
Okay, my biggest mistake, and it's huge, I'll tell you, King, is I was in the sort of, I call it the good old boy world, just because that's a good phrase. There were so many meetings, actually. I mean, I can tell you when I started my business 20 years ago, I can't tell you how many rooms. I was the only woman in the room, that's for certain. And I would go to 7 a.m. breakfast meetings, and I literally would look around the room at 300, 700 men and think, gosh, all the other mommies are at home with their kids. So that was great. And I really built a successful business. The huge failure in my business is that I always say I'm a techno peasant. I have a good website, I think, because techies developed it for me, and I have good content because I know what to do business-wise, but I'm not a social media whiz. I haven't optimized technology to grow my business in the way that I probably should have done. I didn't need to because I knew so many people. I was doing so much business. I was speaking, and every time I'd speak in a room, somebody would walk up to me and want me to speak at the next thing. So I never even had to. And then COVID hit. And that hit right on top of, I took care of my beloved mommy after her stroke for a number of years. So my business was sort of winding down. I wasn't building business. I was just taking care of her. And I thought, it doesn't matter. I'll build my business up in 2020. When my youngest child graduates and goes off to college, I'll build it up then. And I didn't think about COVID. So I had a number of speaking engagements. They were all canceled. All the speaking I had was canceled. Training was put on hold. And now I find myself needing to have the one thing that I didn't do, my failure, of course, being not to have a technological machine behind my business.
That's a very powerful lesson as well.
Yep.
I'm actually just now beginning to incorporate more social media into what I'm doing as a result of COVID.
Well, that's how we connected, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because as you said, COVID taught me a whole different way that I had to pivot and do business differently.
Well, as they say, the geeks have won. No,
absolutely.
I remember when I was doing a speaking engagement, probably at least I have my business 20 years, maybe 15 years ago, maybe more than that. And somebody in the audience said, well, what do you think of LinkedIn? And I remember my answer was, that this has been developed by people who haven't been in the business community doing the sorts of things. And I pointed to the audience we're all doing, because I used to take tables at charitable events, right? I'd support a charity. Then the money was a tax deduction, but I was helping a charity. There would be 10 seats. So me and I'd invite 9 potential business prospects. I'd invite 9 people. I'd get probably at least 5 of them will be business clients afterwards. Or I'd speak in person and there'd be all these people in person. I had all their business cards. Why would I need a technological platform? I couldn't even contemplate. I used to take foursomes at golf at tournaments, again, supporting charities. I supported so many charities. Somebody once said to me, Hilary, do you run the disease circuit? I was playing golf in so many business charities, but I did so much of that. I could not see the benefit of something like LinkedIn. And I said at the time, this is my answer at the time was, I kind of gave what I just said. And then I said, and my caveat was, there may come a day when the world operates more that way. Right now, I don't see the use for it, was my words. And that was 15 or so years ago. Now, who could have predicted COVID? And yes, the geeks have won. I mean, technology companies and big tech wants us to be at home and wants us to be shut down. And the FANG stocks went through the roof with COVID. And, technology is what is needed in things like shutdowns.
Absolutely. And it also, in my opinion, from my experience, it creates a level playing field. I mean, a person can literally sit at home and begin to build relationships and build connections and build a sales funnel. And like you said, incorporate social media and then begin to generate revenue from that process without ever having to leave home.
Yes. Yep.
Now,
I always used to say, actually, when I had my cell phone and I'd be dashing from a client to a kid's game, my youngest son played water polo, dashing to water polo. My daughter would play ice hockey, dashing to her ice hockey. And I'd be sitting at a traffic light and I was doing an email on my phone, and a client didn't know if I was sitting at my desk or not. And I always said, neither Bill Gates nor anybody else in the technology, or James Martin, who was a systems integrator, they never, ever thought, I think I'm going to empower single moms to make enough money to put their kids through college and pay their mortgage. That's not what they were thinking, but you're right. It levels the playing field. As a single mother, I will tell you, I could never have made as much money as I did and been at as many of my children's sports and doctor's appointments and school events as I was if it wasn't for technology. So technology has many, many, many great benefits. Yes.
But it also can be very dangerous too, but that's not go down that rabbit hole. But I definitely like the fact that, again, when you give your answers, you give them with such emotion, with such conviction, and at the same time, I can feel the fact that you have such pride in your career and you have pride in being a mother. And that, to me, as I look around in today's society, that's what I see missing from the media. I see it in individuals I connect with and build with, but just from a context of a media story that we can look at, I don't see that being talked about or being praised as much and highlighted. And I think that should be.
I think you're right there. Yes. I'm not in the media world. Well, I do a lot of media correspondent work, but in business. But I think it is a shame that family isn't valued enough. Family to me is everything. And when I remember when my mummy passed away, and I was there when I was at her funeral, and I remember thinking to myself that I think about all the friends she had, all the things she did in her entire world, but who had flown from England? My sister, her family. It was family that was there. She had lots of friends that were there, but when you go, it's your family that matters. And when you're there with, dribble coming down your cheek, it's your family that's going to be there wiping it off your chin. And family just is so important. Yes. And I wish, if everybody treasured every member of their family and everybody treated everybody the same, probably we wouldn't have any crime or violence either, because everybody would treat people the same. But that's not the business that I'm in, but I wish people would. Yes.
Absolutely. I completely concur with that. What are some of the key mistakes that you see businesses make with regards to positioning themselves as thought leaders?
I think one of the things is that people don't spend enough time realizing that it is the relationships that they build with their people. I think too many people are focused externally. They're focused externally from their business. And that's why we have the talent wars that we do, why so many people why there's the great resignation, right?
Yes.
Because people don't value their people. So how do you gain and retain clients, but also gain and retain talent? You have to value people. And valuing people is what I said before about thinking about how do we make the sum greater than the parts. So if you have employees, you should be asking your employees, and you should be knowing, what are your employees' hot buttons? What really matters to them? Not just, oh, Friday afternoons off work. Maybe not everybody wants a Friday afternoon off work. Maybe other people want to study on a Tuesday morning because there's a program or a class that's held on a Tuesday. Maybe other people want to have, I don't know, on a Wednesday they want to do something. I think it's learning what your people want. I one time had this huge team that worked for me, and there was one young man, he wanted to listen to some technological podcast at a certain time. There was one older lady that worked for me, and all she wanted to do was to be able to pick up her granddaughter from school. So she didn't want to have Fridays off. She just wanted to be able to leave every day at 3:30. She was happy to come in at like 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock, but she wanted to be able to leave to pick up her granddaughter. If I hadn't asked her, how would have I even known she had a granddaughter or wanted to pick her up? If I hadn't have asked this young man, how would have I even known he wanted to be on this podcast? So I think it's about asking your people what matters to them, not having blanket policies. So to be a thought leader, think about, have some thoughts to, what do my people want? If I give them what they want, then I can lead them anywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that's great advice, and with a conscious capitalist space, we call that one form of stakeholder integration, when you're making sure your employees, being your stakeholders in that context, or have a voice, their voices are heard, and you're considering their feelings and what's important to them and the decisions you're making on behalf of them.
Yeah, and it's maybe very different than yours. From my example is, I'm a golfer. Give me a Friday afternoon off to golf. No.
Yes.
No. Why? Because it's too hot in Washington, D.C. I'd rather have a Friday morning. Let me tee off at 7:30 and I'll start at 11. I'll go to 7 o'clock at night on a Friday. I don't care. I don't go out drinking. I don't drink. Friday afternoons are too hot for me. So don't just have a blanket policy. Ask people what matters to them.
Wow. Definitely something to keep in mind. Now, you've answered this question as well already, at least some aspects of it, but I want to ask it again a different way to just kind of see if there's anything else to impact. And it is, how do you gain likability, trust, and respect with everyone that you work with?
Okay, so a few things. Well, as I mentioned, everybody listening to this should read Dale Carnegie, because he talks about the six ways to make people like you. So there's 6 ways to make people like you, and everybody should read that book so that you know what they are. But I think what's very important is, I think this, no matter what I do, where I go, there's the expression that Michael Jordan has a coach, but the Sandlot players don't. Doesn't matter how good you are at something, there's always somebody who knows more than you or can help you more. So number one thing I always say to people is, find the expert. Now, even if you don't choose to work with me, find an expert to coach your people. Why? Because everybody who's a good professional wants to grow. And if you're coaching and leading your people, they'll stay with you. One of the greatest reasons for the Great Resignation is that people don't respect their talent, their employees. Coach them, train them, give them more, help their careers grow, because that's what they want. So now you ask me, what do I actually do? One of the things I do is, one of the things I advocate to all my coachees is practice every day. I mentioned, Michael Jordan has a coach, but he also shoots hoops. Great golfers, Tiger Woods and Jordan Spieth and other great golfers, and Rory McIlroy, what do? They hit golf balls. So what is your practicing? Practicing likability, trust, and respect. Practice being likable to everybody, for everyone. It doesn't matter what job they have. It doesn't matter what they do. One of my things in life is, I actually said to recently, or we were talking with somebody, I said, I'm a laziest. What is a laziest? Well, it means, this is a male friend of mine. He said, I'm not a male chauvinist. I'm not a misogynist. I'm not a racist. I can't, in his American accent, I can't stand lazy people. I'm a laziest. So I would say I'm a laziest, meaning as long as somebody's not being lazy, other than that, I respect absolutely everybody. So treat everybody with respect. How do you treat everybody with respect? Like I said, even when you call an airline, you're on the phone to somebody with this huge anonymous vacuum of people that pick up the phone on all these places that we call. You know what? Have a dialogue with them. Be really nice to them. You know what? You can build a bond with them, even if you don't end up getting anything for it. Practice your relationship skills with everybody, everywhere. You know why? Because they're working hard. Here's a good example for you. I was in an airport, just actually recently came back from a trip. There was a lady cleaning the bathroom, and I have very broken Spanish, but I could tell that she was a Spanish lady. And I went over and I said, muchas gracias, señora, muy bonita, because everything was all shiny. She turned to me and she was tearing up because nobody ever stopped. And she told me that nobody ever stops and thanks her. Why not? Why not? This person is working really, really hard. And I don't care what someone's job is. If they're working, they are trying. Maybe they didn't have the breaks that you did in your life or I did in my life. Maybe they didn't have the breaks in their life that they could do the jobs that we're doing. But you know what? If they're working, they're really trying. And we should all respect them and we should all give them dignity and talk to them. And that's what I do. And that is what I preach to everybody that I interact with. Practice every day with everybody. You'll get better at it and you'll make someone's day. You'll make a little lady like that tear up with joy because no one ever thanks her for cleaning the bathroom.
Now, that is great advice, and I love it. But what I want to now kind of get it at the core of, I think before you can adopt that philosophy, there has to be a certain book set, rituals you're going through in addition to the boot camp that kind of puts you in that space to want to do that, to want to and behave in that context. And so if you wouldn't mind sharing what that is. Like, what do you do to keep you in that space where you want to express yourself and be kind to someone else?
I get up every day, King. All I can tell you is my first thought is, what can I do for my children? What can I do for my family? And what can I do for my friends and my clients to make them happy? What can I do to help other people? What is my day going to look like to help other people? I literally get up and that's what I think. That's my first thought in the morning. What can I do for somebody else today? And if everybody did that, the world would be an absolute, what could we do to make somebody else's day? What can we do to make somebody else really happy today? Because you know what? We are all going to be dust in the wind very soon. And to me, that's a life worth lived. If every single day you're making everybody else happy, you're trying to inspire other people, you're trying to make people laugh, you're trying to make people smile, and you're trying to do something good for people. That's just what I get up. And that's simply as simple as that. I get up in the morning. My first thought is, I'm putting on my shoes because I'm about to do my boot camp, and we have a boot camp and we have a nice kind of camaraderie. And I think about what's some silly quip I can make today that will make them laugh.
Yeah, that's just a very powerful, motivating factor to get up with that kind of, I'd like to say, dominating thought.
Well, I also have a little trick, actually. I have another trick.
Okay.
And I've got to translate this kind of into American, but I read this in England and it said, there's something about our blood flow in the morning. This is something else that I do in the mornings when I get up, just right when I get up, and I go, not because I don't want to wake anybody else up, but when I get into the bathroom, I get into the bathroom. And in England, of course, I don't know if you know this, but the last time we won the World Cup was in 1966, right? So football is a big deal. What Americans call soccer, but it's real football with your feet, not football with your hands. Like it's 95% of your hands, and they call it American football. Anyway, real football, soccer. So literally 1966 was the last time we won it, right? So for anybody who's English or anybody, it's so huge to win the World Cup. So you have to imagine that we just won the World Cup and you have to go, yes! And it gets your blood flow going. So I always say to Americans, imagine your favorite team won the Super Bowl, your favorite hockey team won the Stanley Cup, and your favorite baseball team won the World Series all in one. That's for an English person, and go, yes. So I go in the bathroom and I go, yes, like it's the greatest day in the world today. And you know what? It's attitude. It's attitude. You have to have that attitude, because otherwise, who's going to try to make you happy, right? And my last point on this is a very good friend of mine. We were golfing one time, and he's very happily married. It was when I was going through my horrendous divorce. And I said to him, how are you so happily married? He's got 4 kids, very happily married. And he was Italian and his wife was Italian. And he said to me, you know, Hilary, I played golf with my father-in-law to be. We played 9 holes and we had a very good time together. And on the 9th tee box, he turns to me and he says, you know, if you don't want to make my daughter happy, I will kill you. And my friend said, I took him seriously. He said, every morning, my first thought when I wake up is, how can I make her happy? That's how he spends his life. And you know what I thought to myself when he said that to me? This was at least 17 years ago when I was going through my divorce. I think 17 or 18 years ago. And King, I thought to myself, why wouldn't I get up every day and just be happy and make myself happy and make everybody around me happy? And that to me was something great to think about. And again, if everybody in the world just went out every day and tried to make as many people as they could happy, and you could, by the way, if you don't believe me with this, anybody who's watching this podcast, you can go to like places where I play golf or the grocery store, or the places, I know their names. I know the names of the ladies in the UPS store. I know the names of the people in the supermarket. Why? Because it's important. Just because it's a chain supermarket, Do you know how they react? There's somewhere where I go to get a Smoothie King. I know his name, the man that owns it. I go and I say, hello, offer. You know what? Who else remembers his name? People don't use their names. When you go into Starbucks, it's the same people. Learn their names, say hello. Pretend you're like a little Italian village or a little village in England. This is your community. Know those people's names. Make their day, and you'll be here.
I love it. I love it. You know, it reminds me of a quote, and I forgot who the source was, but it says, you should focus on being the most interested person in the room, and by default, you become the most interesting person in the room.
Well, yes, I will say that. I will say, you know, most people loved Jackie Kennedy and Princess Diana, right?
Yes.
And if you look at any photographs of them, they were always focused right in on the person. Like Princess Diana, you can picture her, right? Kneeling down and talking to her like a little child outside a coal mine. What do you think she asked them? You know, what do you think of global politics? No, she probably said, what's your name, Johnny? So what's your name for this little Johnny boy? You know, and same thing with Jackie Kennedy. There's certain people who just were really focused on other people and had that knack. And I think it's like animals. Animals can tell when you really care about them, and people can too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what is the business development boot camp that you provide? And then what are some of the key benefits that attendees will receive as a result?
Okay, when they attend my business development bootcamp, they leave with, and I've mentioned a couple of times during your podcast, King, my framework. I have a user-friendly operating framework. And I mentioned there was one man that said that he's had it now for 18 years. Other people have said that they would have made way more money, somebody in the real estate industry, if he listened to what I said 20 years ago. They leave with an actual framework, and it's the difference between need and want. Again, everybody listening to your podcast, you need a lawyer, you need an accountant, you need a banker. Why would you want that certain one? So if you run a business, why would someone want to come to your business? What can you do to make them want you? What should your employees be doing to make them want you? I just recently gave a keynote for a construction firm. There's tons of construction firms. Why would anybody want to work with that construction firm? So I have a framework that helps the company generate want. This is what your people have to do in every email, in every presentation, every conference call, on every Zoom. What do you need to do to make people want to work with you versus any other firm? So it's a want framework. So they leave with the want framework. They leave with tactics, with techniques, and the very next email they'll send afterwards, they'll know the 3 words to always put in an email and 3 words never to put in an email. And most people, it's just by guessing and happenstance. Everything I do is based on data and statistics. It's not some idea off the top of my head. As I mentioned, I worked for KPMG for 11 years. I've had my company for 20 years. I have researched in great depth every single point in my framework, and I've been using this now for over 15 years. I always say to every audience, if there's anything I've missed out or anything you don't think is here, let me know. No one has come up with anything yet. So I have an operating framework, and it's become extremely beneficial for many global Fortune 500 companies, and lots of testimonials and lots of case studies are on my website.
Excellent. Excellent.
And all I have to fix now is generating people going to my website and then knowing about me and knowing about what I do. That's the only part I have to fix.
Does your morning boot camps influence how you deliver your business development boot camps?
I don't. It influences in terms of it gives me energy and makes me very positive. And the man that teaches it is great inspiration. But it's not the content of the boot camp in the morning is very much, it's a physical workout. And mine is obviously all business content, my business development boot camp. But I will say energy wise, keeping me fit, keeping me healthy. And energy really does matter, because as you mentioned earlier, you say I personify what I teach. It's no good me going in front of an audience and saying, okay, well, this is what you got to do, because I put him to sleep. And I would say, something, they always say, if you're bored, then you're boring. I never want to bore an audience. So I hope I'm not boring.
So now, what would you say, what do you enjoy most about playing golf? Because every time I see you mention golf, you light up as well. So what do you enjoy most about playing golf?
Well, I guess everybody has their different natural attributes. I'm not artistic. I can't sing and hold 3 notes together, so I have almost zero artistic ability. I just always was very athletic. As a girl in school in England, I played tennis, field hockey, and there's an English sport that's very much like basketball. It's called netball. I was captain of our netball team. So I've always been extremely athletic, and I feel good and an endorphin release when I'm playing sports. It's a very healthy thing to do. So what I love about golf is I just love the athleticism about it. I love basically, I think it was Mark Twain who said golf is a good walk spoiled. I say golf is a great walk enhanced, because I'm so competitive. I love the competitive aspect. I love competition vis-a-vis other people because I love winning, but I also love it against myself. I always play myself in a match every time I play. So I love that part of it. I enjoy the camaraderie of being with other people. And more than anything, King, especially now in our lockdown world, sitting here with you, sitting at my desk, I can sit because I played 18 holes crack of dawn after my 6 a.m. boot camp. So I really love, and I play 18 holes in under 3 hours. So I love how much it energizes me. I need that amount of exercise. And then I have my business delivery in the middle of the day or the end of the day. And then like now I can work into the evening. And when my kids go out, I'll do dinner. We do a family dinner, and then they all go out at night. I will work from right after dinner's finished, and they go out from like 7 o'clock, 7:30. I'll work straight till 10:30. So those 3 hours that I took during the morning, that's when I do all my work that most people do in the morning. And so I'm not eating and drinking, and it's the athleticism about it. It's the outdoors, the greenery. Fundamentally, I'm a country girl. I live near a city, but I'm a country girl. If I never saw another town the rest of my life, I'd be totally happy. So I love being in the country, the athleticism, the competition, and the camaraderie.
Now, it's interesting that one of the things you didn't say that most people associate with golf in the business world is the relationships and the transactions that happen on the golf course. And you didn't mention that. So I was curious, why not?
I used to do a lot of that. Well, I used to do a lot of that, but it's not so much anymore. It's very sad. There used to be a business golf tournament, basically, King, every Monday. There would be a charitable tournament. Every charity had a golf tournament. Most charities had a golf tournament. Most chambers of commerce had a golf tournament. Most associations had a golf tournament. So literally from at least middle of March until end of October, every Monday there'd be a business golf tournament, and then there was something else, usually and I would often play in them. I was often invited. Now, I went to the alumni one of my children's school. In fact, online on Facebook, I posted because my son and I and 2 other guys, we won it for the Landon School. But I can't even remember the last business golf tournament I went to. They don't have them anymore. It's terrible. It is so sad that they have ceased and desist almost completely. I played in a pro-am. I was on the advisory board for the Wells Fargo. So yes, it's brilliant for building business relationships, but we just don't have the business tournaments we used to have.
What would you say what has been your best game, if you don't mind sharing?
You mean what was my best score?
Best score, yes.
The score. Okay, well, my best score, I've shot 79 5 times. I've never been lower than 79. And I've won a number of championships. I've won 3 club championships where I played better than that, but because it was match play, and once we'd won the hole, I wasn't keeping score because it was match play. I think I would have shot probably around that, 78, 79, something like that, or maybe actually a bit lower, but it was match play. So it was more, who wins the hole.
Okay.
I won 3 club championships, of which I'm really proud, and I'd love to win another. I've won first division and many senior championships, but I'd still love to win one more club championship, but I'm a little bit old now.
I have to admit that I've heard about golf my entire life, but it never intrigued me enough to go out here and learn it and apply myself. But in talking with you and actually reading your profile first, and the way you talk about golf there and the way you're talking about golf now, you actually are intriguing me. So as a person my age who's never played golf at all, what advice would you give me to say, how do I go about getting started in that process?
Well, first of all, I'm very excited that you're inspired like that, King. And here's 2 things about it. Number one, no one in the history of the world ever said, I wish I'd waited till I was older to start learning golf. So if you're interested in it, start today. Don't start 5 years from now. And too many people wait until they retire to learn. So go out tomorrow. So you asked me earlier about mistakes I made in my life. I was talking more about sort of business mistakes. One other mistake I made, because I was athletic, I never took lessons. Golf is a very technical sport. great athletes even will take golf lessons. I mean, I told you, like Jordan Spieth and Tiger Woods are still taking golf lessons, right? So is Rory McIlroy. So definitely start taking lessons. That's my number one advice. Number two, one of the things I'm really glad, the reason that you're starting golf, I'm glad you are. I call it, and people want to whine about, oh, they have this disadvantage in life and that disadvantage in life. I could have spent my life whining about, well, I'm a single mother. I'm the only woman in the room, in a business room. When I go in, I'm the only woman. They wouldn't have given me any more business because of that. They weren't going to pay me anymore because of that. Now, the world's different today, but this is what I say about golf. Golf is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter what religion you are, what your background is, what country you're from. Doesn't matter what race you are. Doesn't matter what age you are. Doesn't matter how much you weigh, what color your hair is. It doesn't matter. When you get on that tee box, when I get on that tee box, and I will tell you, the majority of my friends are males. The majority of people I golf with are males. I have Black friends. I have Asian friends. I have Hispanic friends. I have somebody I just played with last weekend, a Mormon friend. I have all these different friends of different religions, different races. You know why? When you get on the tee box, what matters is where you hit the ball. It doesn't matter what anything else. And you can just bond. Tell me how else I could have gone out there and been with these CEOs and big global leaders who then wanted to give me business. There's nothing else I could have done with them. There's nothing else that would have put me in the same arena. So there was a time when I used to write about business golf. I used to speak on business golf, and I was coaching business golf. Why? Because being out there and networking with other people was so powerful. Unfortunately, those tournaments don't exist anymore, but you can go up to any public golf course tomorrow, and people I have found ubiquitously are really welcoming on a golf course. Because there's all kinds of people, everybody looks very different, and they are very accepting. Don't let the mainstream media convince you that it's just for a certain demographic. It is not anymore. It is an everybody's sport, and people are very welcoming out in the golf community.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. As we get near the top of the hour, one of my key questions I love to ask is, who would be a king connection for you? And let me define what I mean when I say king connection. I'm not speaking about me or my company, but I'm speaking about an individual who, because of their financial success, their social success, their career success, and their life success, can be a person that, if they invite you into the inner circle, their inner network, can change your life exponentially. And like, for example, a example for me would be Magic Johnson. If I met Magic Johnson, that would just, as a mentor, as an advisor, or whatever capacity he would serve in my life, I know how that would benefit me tremendously. So I would ask, do you have a person identified that would be a king connection for you?
A person?
Yes.
I wouldn't know the name of them. I will say whoever was behind someone like a Dale Carnegie, who took, he had a book, they developed all these centers. I've always thought it's a big shame that I don't have a machine behind me. So that when I speak and I'm doing what I do, that I do really well and audiences love it. It's just a pity that there isn't a machine behind me, but I can't think of the name of such a person off the top of my head.
Okay, no problem. I'm just curious. And what lessons would you say you learned from some contracts you did not win? Was there any important lessons where you would say, I made this mistake, I shouldn't have done this, or if I had done this, I would have definitely won that contract or won that speaking assignment? Or
well, I guess it's not really times that I'm in a competitive situation, because normally it's because I've spoken or I've been in a situation where they want to do more with me. So I don't have to go up in a competitive situation with other people. So that's not really been, I just know that the big fail, as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest failings is that I don't have a technological machine behind me to make me a big public national brand, which is what I need to work on. Okay,
excellent. Well, my last thing would ask you to give any advice that you would have or you want to share with our listening audience they can take away from, as I call it, their mind food for today.
I would say that happiness is a choice and success is a choice. One of the many things I do love about our nation, I mean, let's wrap with the way we started. You asked me about, coming from England. One of the great things I love about America, I do truly see, and I have seen, the most successful people I know, friends that I know, people I know that are so successful, they all came from nothing. What did they do? It wasn't just working hard. They worked hard, but they worked smart. They were trying to learn. They were trying to grow all the time. So learn and grow. Who should you learn and grow for? from people that are more successful than you. Read more, learn more, work harder, and I think you can be a success in our nation. And happiness and success is a choice in America, and I think we all can be.
Excellent. And would you mind sharing any contact information that you want to share with our listening audience if they want to connect with you,
Oh,
as
yeah.
well as what services your company provides?
Yes, my name is Hilary Fordwich. I'm the only one in the world. So you just Google me and you'll come right to my website, which is Strelmark. And that's easy. I'm very easy to find. So for better or for worse, you can find me very easily. And yes, I do speaking engagements. I coach, train, and do everything to help a company grow. I coach individuals. I do a lot of orals coaching for big, huge presentations. I just worked actually recently. I mentioned I'd given a keynote for a construction firm and a global construction firm, actually on a huge multi-million dollar bid. Work with a lot of big government contractors, but from large global firms to small 50-man firms, I help people grow.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Hilary. This has been an excellent investment of your time. I'm grateful for you investing the time, and this has been some very powerful lessons you've shared. But more importantly, I believe, to me, what you shared is the humanity of a person who believes in what they're doing, is passionate about it, and goes after it with all their conviction. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And King, thank you very much for having me on. You were a delight and an absolute pleasure to be with.
Thank you.